Lesson is a collaboration with Link Online Learners, which is linkonlinelearners.org. And Link Online Learners have sent us a whole mountain of questions, which we are going to go through. But also, this is just like a general ask whatever you want. Ask a scientist any kind of question that you want, and we'll give you a good answer. But yes, so if you are joining, then thanks for coming, and do throw any questions into the chat whenever you want. And then after this lesson on Link Online Learners, there'll be like a discussion, so you can sign onto there and talk to the other students about what you learnt today or what you found out, and that will be pretty fun. And so yes. As I said, like just throw questions in as you come to them. But actually, there are so many questions that have come in that I'm just going to jump straight into some. So first of all, what is this? What is this animal? This animal is a giant squid. Now, this wasn't actually one of the questions that I was asked. So we've had a question come in from Kenya, and it's from Rachel, and her question is, what animal has the longest eyesight? What animal has the longest eyesight? So we're looking for an animal with the longest eyesight, and it is not this squid. But does anyone know why I might have brought up a picture of a squid anyway to get us going? Why have I brought up a picture of a giant squid if we're looking for the longest eyesight? And the answer is to do with its eyes. This is actually not something that I was gonna cover, but it's something that's just sprung to my mind. Is, you know how jellyfish, you often think of them as like quite passive creatures that just kind of float around the sea and don't really do very much? Well, there are actually lots of jellyfish that have organs that act quite well as eyes, and then they can actually control quite well where they're swimming. And so a lot of jellyfish will look out for you with their eyes and then swim towards you and give you a good stinging. So jellyfish are not as kind of generally friendly as we like to think that they might. Well, not necessarily friendly, but they're not necessarily so passive as we might like to think that they are. Anyway, going back to the giant squid, the reason that I've labelled the giant squid is because giant squid have the biggest eyes of any eyes that we know of. The eye of a giant squid is about, what do you guys think? How big is the eye of a giant squid? By the way, if you're watching and you don't have a Twitch account, then you can sign up for one via Twitch, and then you'll be able to interact on our website. So do that if you haven't already. Download Twitch if you haven't got there yet, so that you can interact on the chat. The answer is 30 centimeters. So the eye of a giant squid is 30 centimeters across, which is pretty big. Now, I still have not answered the question of what animal has the longest eyesight, but I will get there, I promise. But another thing I quite wanted to ask you guys before we move to that is this. So like all across your body you've got blood vessels, right, that are taking the blood around your body. But what is strange and unusual about the eye? Like the eye doesn't really have many blood vessels. Why is that? Does anyone know why the eye does not have blood vessels running all across it? What do you think? Make a nice green eye here. Why does the eye not have blood vessels running across it? And the answer is because eyes can breathe themselves. Your eyes, you may not know this, but your eyes can breathe. And so yeah, that's they just absorb oxygen straight from the world around them. Now, okay, I will finally answer the question of, in fact, no, before we go on to the animal that actually has the longest eyesight, I wanted to show you this creature as well. This is called a jumping spider. and it doesn't have the longest eyesight, but it has some pretty amazing eyesight. Now, what do you notice about the eyes of this jumping spider, and what do you think that might mean? So yes, the spider has got 4 eyes instead of just 2. Well, actually, loads of spiders have loads and loads of eyes, but the thing that's really cool about the eyes of this spider is that these ones here, it's a bit bigger, these eyes at the front are like telescopic eyes. They're eyes that just see really, really far, but in a very, very straight direction, like a telescope. You know when you look down a telescope and you can just see like straight in front of you? That's what these eyes are. So these are telescopic eyes. In comparison, these eyes on the side are peripheral, which means that they just see stuff that's kind of like off to the side instead of seeing the stuff that's forward. It's kind of cool that they have like a dedicated eye setup to make sure this can happen. Anyway, okay, right. Let's finally talk about which animal has the longest eyesight and answer Rachel from Kenya's question. So the animals that we think have the longest eyesight are birds of prey, and most importantly, perhaps, is the eagle. I am so bad at drawing birds, so what I'm going to do is draw a really terrible bird with its wings. It looks more like a kind of a swan with a very posh person nose. But anyway, this here is an eagle, and to show so, I will just give it this top hat. So how far do you guys think an eagle can see? How far do you think an eagle can see? Or better question, how far away can an eagle see like a small animal, like a mouse, for example? Oops. Let's do the whiskers of the mouse and its tail. How far away can an eagle see an animal like a mouse? Oh, it's Daniel Pitius, you're back. Pretty bad at judging distances. You're actually so close. 3 miles is so close. You would not believe. It's almost exactly 3 miles is the current distance that we think eagles can see. So for those who think in kilometers, it's about 4.5 kilometers away that an eagle can see something of incredibly high accuracy moving around in the undergrowth. Now, we got another question coming in from Toan from Vietnam, and Toan's question was, what can birds see that's different to what we can see? So, what can birds see that is different to what we see? So, birds don't just see the same colours that we do, they also see some other colours. Does anyone know what colours birds can see that are different to the colours that we can see? So birds can see all of the colours of ultraviolet. So they can see ultraviolet colours that we cannot see. And so, right, let's say, quick thought experiment. So you're running a job application, you're trying to hire someone in for a job. And it's illegal in the UK and many other places to discriminate on the basis of age. So you can't just say, oh, you're too old, so I don't want you for the job. That's not allowed. Now, with birds, it's really difficult to tell how old a bird is, right? Like a bird is, some of them look old, some of them look, well, no, sorry, birds all look the same, right? So all birds kind of look the same. So, so how do you tell which ones are the old ones and which ones are the young ones? And it turns out that actually, whilst birds may all seem very colourful to us in our vision, it's in the ultraviolet that the young birds look very bright, like bright ultraviolet colours, and it's in normal vision. And the very old birds will have very dull ultraviolet colours. So you can tell how old a bird is by looking at it with that UV goggles on, because the really bright birds are very young and the really old birds are quite dull in the ultraviolet. It's really interesting, isn't it, that birds can only tell their age from looking at the ultraviolet. Anyway, before I move on, so I can see there's another question from Kenya, this time from Damaris, about insects. But before we go on to that, I just wanted to talk to you guys about vision flipping. So we're going to use this spider for this. So I'm going to use the spider's eyes. In fact, no, let's not use the spider. Let's use this. Let's use this mayfly. So if in fact, no, let's not use the mayfly. I'm going to use that later. Let's just use a normal human. So I'm just going to draw a human in terrible cartoon form. Right. So if you have a human and you show them a windmill. So here's a windmill. Oh wait. I need to share my screen. Here we go. Right, so we've got a human, which I've drawn excellently well. Let's make the human look a little bit surprised. And the human is looking at a windmill off in the distance. A nice windmill, and a very surprising windmill as well. So that's why they are heavily surprised. So this human is looking at a windmill. And then if we give this human a special pair of goggles, so let's give them a special pair of goggles that they're going to put on their eyes, and this special pair of goggles turns everything upside down. So instead of seeing the windmill like this, they're going to see the whole windmill the other way up. Okay, so this is a real pair of goggles that you can get. You can get a pair of goggles that will flip your vision upside down. Now, if you wear these goggles for a really long period of time, or if you wear these goggles at all, it's quite complicated to get around and go about your daily life with everything upside down. But you can kind of like teach yourself to do it. And if you wear upside down goggles for long enough, then what do you think happens to your vision? What happens to your vision if you wear upside down goggles for long enough? Exactly. Yeah, your vision becomes used to it, and all the objects flip the other way up again. And then when you take off the goggles, everything is upside down, and you have to wait quite a long period of time until your brain will readjust and flip everything back the other way. Anyway, right, so let's go back to questions that have come in. So there is this other question from Damaris in Kenya. So thanks for your question, Damaris. And this question was, what is the shortest lifespan for an insect? And the thing is, we actually don't know most insects. What percentage of insects do you think we've discovered? And obviously it's quite difficult to guess what percentage we think we haven't discovered because we haven't discovered them. But we've made these approximations based on kind of when people go out and try and find insects, how quickly and easily they find them. That gives us an indication. The answer is that we think we only know about 10% of insects. We only know about 10% of insects at all. Anyway, so I'm going to give you an answer, Damaris, for what is the shortest lived insect, but we don't actually know if it's the truth or not. But anyway, this insect is called a mayfly. And a mayfly lives for 1 day. And that's it. Now, it lives for such a small amount of time that, what do you think is going on with the mouth of the mayfly? Let's see what people think. Also, Dino Peaches, it's great to see you. We ran this lesson as a collaboration with Link Online Learners, but I'm not sure how many of those guys have actually joined. But I prepared this lesson based on their questions, and I'm not sure if they're actually here, which is a shame, because we're getting them all answered. But anyway, it's good that you're here, and we'll continue running it for the remainder of the time, and see if any of them arrive. But anyway. Oh, you are here. Oh, great. Okay, but are you all watching through one channel or through different channels? Anyway, yes, what is going on with the mouth of a mayfly? The fact is that mayflies actually don't really even have proper mouths. No proper mouths. And they don't have a proper intestines either. Why do you think they don't have proper mouths, and why do they not have proper intestines? What do you think is going on? Exactly, yeah. Medusozoa. They don't eat. So they don't eat because they live for such a short amount of time that they can't even be bothered to eat. It's not even important. Can you imagine that? Not even having a digestive system or a mouth because your lifespan is so short that it doesn't even make any sense. It's kind of really sad, isn't it? Anyway, mayflies actually spend most of their lifetimes it's kind of weird to say that they only live for a day, because actually they exist in this form before that's kind of called a nymph. Well, that's not a very good colour. And a nymph kind of lives in the water, and it's kind of like a little grubby thing. And the nymph will live a lot longer, but eventually it will turn into a mayfly, and the mayflies get 1 day of time, and that is all. Anyway, right, there was another question that came in from Ben from Vietnam, and that was, why can't bears see in colour? Now, I didn't actually know that bears couldn't see in colour. That's kind of news to me. But I know that a lot of animals can't see in colour. But I kind of thought, instead of talking about bears, let's just talk about animals in general. So I'm going to just show this picture of a multicoloured shrimp. This is called a rainbow shrimp, or a mantis shrimp. Let's call it a mantis one for now. Mantis shrimp. And we can see loads of colours on this mantis shrimp, right? It looks really colourful to us. And the reason why is that inside our eyes, Dinopetius, yes, you are right. I think this is the one with the supersonic claws, the one that creates like the pockets of air that collapse super quickly, that make an explosion in the water and stun their prey. Yeah, I think it is actually the same one. I remember thinking that a few months ago, because I was looking at both of them separately and I hadn't pulled them both together, but I think I found that it is the same one. Not 100% sure, but quite sure. Anyway, inside our eyes, we have, some people might already know the answer to this, so I'll go quickly over this one so that we can move on to the other questions. But inside our eyes, we have 3 different colour receptors. We can see green, and we can see red, and we can also see blue. Oh, I actually have a blue. Maybe this can do as my blue. Oh, here we go, I've got blue. So yes, these are the colours that we can see. So we can see green, and we can see red, and we can see blue. But then we can also see when these overlap. So when green and red overlap, does anyone know what colour that allows us to see? And what about when red and blue overlap? And what about when green and blue overlap? So when red and green overlap, we get yellow. And when blue and green overlap, we get cyan. And when red and blue overlap, we get magenta. Anyway, this means that we can see like 6 fundamental colours, and then we can kind of see all the colours in between. So something that's a bit yellow, a bit red, that's going to look a bit orange, and so on. And so our eyes can sort between loads of different colours because our eyes are able to see these different colours with these different receptors in our eyes. But I don't know about bears, but I know that dogs are seriously limited on the number of colour cells that they have. So they just see the intensity of the light, and they're not very good at recognizing colours. But the reason that I wanted to show this mantis shrimp is because mantis shrimps don't just have 3 colour receptors, they have 12. Now, this creates such a dizzying number of potential combinations that a mantis shrimp can literally see, in theory, hundreds and hundreds of different colours that we can't even imagine. Loads of colours. But we're actually really confident on this based on tests that we've done on mantis shrimp. Their brains are so small inside this little mantis shrimp brain that they have, that even though they have the potential to see all these colours, they can't register them and they can't understand them, which is kind of sad, actually, I think. Anyway, so let's move on to some other questions. So do throw questions into the chat if you'd like to, but I'll just keep asking some other ones that came in. So this is from Rebecca from Kenya. And she says that globally there have been a lot of releases of chemicals by companies. So is there a way that science can intervene and end things like and end the side effects of these chemicals? So well, first of all, everything around us is chemicals. So it's one of the common things we do where we think of chemicals as bad, because we think of chemicals as being the things that we make industrially, and they're a bad thing. But actually, everything is made of chemicals. But when we talk about chemicals like that, we're often talking about like pollutants. Now, a pollutant is quite a weird idea. I've just seen a good question come in, and I will answer that in just a moment. A pollutant is quite a weird idea, because a pollutant basically means we're taking some kind of material, like some chemical maybe, and we're putting so much of it into a certain part of the world that part of the world then gets damaged. Now, this is an idea that didn't make any sense before humans, because before humans, nature moved so slowly that nothing ever really polluted on a grand scale apart from maybe like a volcano going off or something like that. Because the truth is that, when we release carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, we call that a pollutant, but only because there's so much of it. But we actually really need carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. So we shouldn't think of carbon dioxide itself as like a pollutant chemical, because actually we kind of need it. So let me just switch across to here. So let's just draw a big picture of the world. So the carbon dioxide in the world forms a kind of, let's make that a bit bigger. Carbon dioxide in the world forms a kind of layer around the Earth, and it keeps the Earth warm. And it keeps the Earth warm because of something called the greenhouse effect. And so any light that comes into the Earth gets kind of trapped inside because of the layer of carbon dioxide, and the heat keeps bouncing round and round and round. And so this is why the Earth gets hotter. Now, this greenhouse effect, which is caused by the CO2, is not a problem in itself. Now, with all of this carbon dioxide around us, the average temperature of the world is about 15 degrees Celsius. What do you think the average temperature of the world would be if we didn't have any carbon dioxide or any of the other gases that cause this greenhouse effect that heats the world up? What do you think the temperature of the world would be without any of these pollutant gases? So Dino Peters is saying instinctively I'd say the same as it is in space. So it would be hotter because unlike in space, which is very cold because there's no thermal energy really, because there's not like particles moving around, because there are no particles in most of space. But the Earth would be much hotter than space because it's got a surface that the sun can shine on and heat up. So it's a surface that is absorbing the sun's heat and actually getting hotter. But still, it would be a lot colder. So without the greenhouse effect, we'd be down at about minus 18 degrees C. So it'd be really chilly. And also, the nights would be crazy cold. Like it would be real high variability between baking hot when it's, or not baking hot, but like much hotter when we're underneath the sun, and then crazy cold when we're outside, because this greenhouse effect is kind of like a blanket that keeps us warm. Anyway, so Rebecca, to answer your question, the problem is not that we're releasing carbon dioxide as like a chemical into the atmosphere. The problem is that we're releasing it really, really quickly. And so the global temperature is starting to climb. So it was average of 14 degrees C not too long ago. And it's climbing up and up and up. And we're worried that it could climb up to even 18 degrees C before the end of this century. Now, that might only seem like a small change in temperature, but it has a huge effect really, really quickly. For example, I won't go into this too much now, but to give you an example of how sensitive nature is to this, because of this temperature change and the extra carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, half of all the coral in the Great Barrier Reef has bleached in the last 25 years. Half of it is all gone, or on the brink of being gone. And also, I think it's Rains Island near Australia, where sea turtles are being born. Sea turtles are very, very sensitive to the temperature. And so if you're a sea turtle egg, if you're a warm egg, then you'll be born as a female. And if you're a cold egg, then you'll be born as a male. Now, as the world gets warmer, there are more females being born, and nowadays on one of the islands near Australia, there are 100 females born to every one male, because the temperature change has happened so quickly that nature is not keeping up. Okay, right. I can see that we've only got 2 minutes left. Oh, crikey. Okay, so we've got a question coming in from Hector. Oh, wait. Yes, we got a question coming in from Hector in Mexico saying, how far can artificial intelligence go? How much smarter can robots be than humans? So artificial intelligence is one of the really cool technologies that we've started to develop that hopefully will make the world a much better place. But the first thing to know about artificial intelligence is that it's not really artificial, and it's not really intelligent. And I know that might come as a surprise since it's called artificial intelligence, but it's an important thing to kind of know. So it's not artificial because artificial means it's made by people. And whilst the artificial intelligence kind of thing is made by a person, it then learns by itself. So it doesn't learn because people are teaching it, it learns by itself. So that's one thing. So it's kind of self-learning. And then intelligent is maybe the wrong word, because it's not so much that it's intelligent and intuitive and working things out and being creative. It's more that it's just doing trial and error over and over again very, very quickly, and then learning what doesn't work, which may sound like it ultimately ends up in the same thing, because if you're learning how to play a chess game and you trial every move possible, then eventually you'll learn the best ways of doing the chess game if you have an infinitely powerful memory. And that's essentially what a computer does, whereas a human would take more of an approach of trying to process what moves are coming next and then making judgments and calculations and things. So artificial intelligence is not that intelligent, but it will hopefully help us to do lots of mundane tasks much better. Don't fear artificial intelligence. Be part of the wave of it and help to shape it in a positive way for the world. There are so many of these new technologies appearing now that people worry about and they think are scary, but we mustn't be scared of these things. Instead, we need to harness them for the greater good. And yes, I am aware actually that this is up to 8 o'clock. And so we're going to have to stop here, because those of you who are on Link Online Learners will now want to join that. And also anyone from Aimhi who wants to join Link Online Learners, please do. You can find it by going to linkonlinelearners.org. So yes, otherwise, thanks so much for coming to this Aimhi Live. You can follow our socials here on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, whatever. And you can sign up for our schedule as well at the bottom of our website. And otherwise, please spread the word. We have some amazing, inspiring guests coming on towards Christmas time, which I think you'll find really exciting. So thanks so much for coming, and I will see you guys again soon. Farewell. Bye bye.